Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Beauty Pop Podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Jen.
And today we've got some beauty news that we're going to discuss. We're going to start off talking about a list that you found, Jen, that's really interesting. The top 50 cosmetics brands from last year. So it's the 2022 ranking. And there's also some nail news, some manicure news that we're going to talk about. Ladies, if you're into the gel manicures, which I am, I know you are,
Your
Jen.
nails are looking so good. I need to be into the gel manicures. I've taken a break for like 2 months, and I'm
want to take more of a break when we talk about this new study.
I'm disgusted with myself. I have to have some manicures.
And then,
and you've got streaming suggestions for us too.
I have two things to recommend on streaming that I'm excited to tell you about, because I always love sharing all my stuff with you. But also, I know you don't have a ton of time, so I'm not really sure if you get to really stream the things that
if these make it to the top of the list. I might have a suggestion for you. Not the one that I've tried yet, but somebody recommended something to me that sounds really interesting. But let's start with this list, because who's making money and who's not in the beauty world? Now, it's probably no surprise. This list is the top.
I would say these are also like parent companies, right? Like these are not
big companies, right? These are like companies. The big umbrella brands.
Yeah.
But I think it was really not a surprise. I might have guessed maybe Maybelline or something else, but L'Oreal is at the top of the list. Number one brand, was number one in 2021. They made over $11 billion in the last year. And the more I sat with it, L'Oreal has an overreach. They have
so many brands.
So many brands underneath their name. But they also, if you're looking for a good drugstore product, L'Oreal, like their eyeliner, their black self-sharpening eyeliner is a go-to for me. They have a huge range of lipsticks. They've got great face makeup and powder and such. So really, it actually does make a lot of sense. They're gigantic, but their products also, they stand up most of the time for what they are.
L'Oreal, if I ever am in any sort of a pinch where I can't make it to a Sephora, or if there's a product that I always use and I don't have time to order it, online, I always go, when I go into CVS or Walgreens or whatever, I go right to the L'Oreal section every time. I'm not a huge Maybelline fan. I would say L'Oreal's my number one.
Yeah.
And then I've actually had good luck with e.l.f.
Oh, e.l.f. is great. e.l.f. is actually
really
a really good brand, and it's cheap.
It is. It's cheap. They're good products, and they're very clean. For being at that price point, it's a really clean brand. But L'Oreal is always where I start. The very first mascara I ever bought was L'Oreal. I stayed loyal to L'Oreal for years and years before I upgraded to Lancôme, which I actually think L'Oreal owns Lancôme.
So Lancome's also on this list, but yes, that's why I was actually just going to add in, everybody that I ever talked to me from the time I was a teenager about makeup, that knew stuff about makeup, they always said that L'Oreal is the closest brand to Lancôme. In fact, many of their mascara formulas are very similar. They're like, it's really kind of like the
same
it's
brushes.
The drug. It's the drugstore version of Lancôme products, which makes it high end and a pretty good experience. So they're at the top of the list. This one surprised me though, number 2, and they've had a growth year because they were number 5 before on the list. Estee Lauder making $7.9 billion last year. This is a United States company, so I guess that's good. Yay us! And they're killing it. I would imagine mostly in their fragrance and their skincare division. I don't see a lot of people that go in to Estee Lauder other than maybe for foundation, but they are constantly coming up with great skincare, always pretty good, and then their fragrances are huge. I mean, who doesn't have like flashbacks to their grandmother, their mom, and Beautiful, maybe Pleasures when you were growing up. Yeah. I mean, it's always, there's a White Linen was a huge one in the 80s.
That's absolutely. Yeah. That you can still buy white linen in drugstores,
Yes, you can.
It's at that level now, but like, it's still there. I've seen it, but yeah, I'm surprised at Estee Lauder I'm surprised at that, because every time I've been, now that when I moved out of Manhattan where there are no malls, it's just department stores, right? You've got Barney's, which RIP, Saks, Bloomingdale's, that's really kind of it. The big Lord & Taylor is gone now too. There's still a Macy's at Herald Square hanging on for the parade once a year. So that's kind of like the only time you'd see a cosmetics counter where you would see all of those brands together. And Estee Lauder just always kind of like in 2023 now, in the mall in Jersey where I live, there's an Estee Lauder counter and it's kind of sad looking.
Oh.
Like a lot of the, like I feel like a lot
of retail stores are though.
Yeah. And so I don't really know, except that I think they do cater to an older crowd.
Mm-hmm. So it's standard. It's always there.
Yeah. So I think that I get it. They're anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, that kind of stuff, neck creams, things like that like my mom is interested in.
Yep.
That makes sense. But I'm also surprised. Although now that I'm talking about it, I'm actually not that surprised because aren't there more boomers than any other generation?
And they're also the ones that have the most money to spend on cosmetics. Right. So they're the ones that have the money to go in and sit with someone at the counter and try some of those products.
And
they've
got
the time and the money to do it.
Yeah.
And it's been such a known brand that I think there's a lot of trust built up. What's fun is that you and I talk about finding new brands, Drunk Elephant, or finding,
the K beauty stuff,
like the K
everything
beauty stuff.
New.
Exactly. Yeah. So we go in and find these little brands and we're not afraid to try them. But I think there's a security, especially for people who are still going into the retail store. Mm-hmm. There's a security in going to brands that brands that you trust. And I think I told you, and I have not put it to the test yet, but I will. For Christmas this year, somebody gave me one of those big, huge kits, that they've come out with at the holidays. Mm-hmm. And it has all of this skincare. The makeup, it looked fine. There's a mascara and some eyeshadow, which I'll try. But the skincare, I was like, gosh, I haven't used Estee Lauder in a long time. So as I cycle through my latest routine, I'm actually going to try it and see. We'll see how grandma's skincare is doing.
I mean, it's
if it works for this girl.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that it's at number 2 under L'Oreal.
Yeah.
That's, and I just looked at this because this is a financial report, really less about, status and really more about finance.
Which brands are raking it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this organization called Brand Finance, which has evaluated and created this list, they said that they've increased the value of Estee Lauder as a brand 17 times between 2007 and 2023.
I know.
So
isn't that great?
All of these years, which makes me wonder, I bet that Estee Lauder bought something really good.
They might have.
Right?
They might have.
It's kind of also making me think this isn't just my mom keeping this company in business.
Yeah.
I bet they bought something really advantageous as well. So that's kind of something to look out for. But it is really interesting that it's number 2 on the list. I would never have guessed that, ever.
And not that we're the financial girls, but I think it is interesting to see which brands have the most power, the most finance behind it, what's making the most money. And number 3 on the list is a standard. If you go to a drugstore, you've got, especially men at home, although there's Lady Gillette, but Gillette is number 3 on the list. They made $6.9 billion in 2022. Everybody on the planet, I think, knows Gillette, right?
Sure.
It is so well known.
Mm-hmm.
It is a standard. Men especially, I think this is a great male brand and the proof that there's still a lot of spending in that department.
Yeah.
And for women, I don't know. I am not brand loyal when it comes to razors. I'm constantly trying new razors. I'm big into disposables because I just think they work better, even though they're not probably great for the planet. But the landfill fills up a little faster in my house. But the electric razors just don't cut it for me, doing my legs and all that stuff.
I have a great recommendation for you, though. We should talk about this. We should do shaving and grooming as a whole separate
hair removal
as a whole separate episode. Because I've got a really good rec for you. Because I was the same way. Doesn't Gillette own Venus?
Yeah, and Venus is that's mostly Venus. What I use.
So I was a Venus girl. You keep the handle, right? So it's like you're not throwing out the whole razor and just the disposable blades and stuff. So I have the same kind of thing right now from a different company, but the blades are amazing. Anyway, we'll save that.
Well, there you go. So number 4 on the list is Nivea, however you like to say it.
Yeah,
lotion.
Nivea. That is an interesting one as well. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have thought, but now it is worth noting, like you said, Estee Lauder was number 5 the year before, and it bumped up to number 2. Gillette was number 2. It's bumped down to number 3. Nivea was number 3. It's now bumped down to number 4. So that is really interesting. Now, Nivea, I feel like Nivea, I would say I'm brand neutral about Nivea. Mm-hmm. I don't have good or bad feelings about it. I don't think it's been a very long time since I've bought a Nivea product. And when I did, it was probably a body lotion is what I'm going to guess.
I think of them only for lotion, which is funny. And I know they have a lot of other products, and they have a lot of lip products, and I'm sure they probably have body washes and such. Now, I only think of them for lotion. And when I think of them, I think of really boring kind of standard lotion that doesn't really have much of a smell, might be a little sticky when you put it on. It's funny. I don't have a positive reaction when I hear Nivea. I actually have more of a positive reaction with Estee Lauder and surely with L'Oreal. L'Oreal is a totally positive reaction.
Definitely.
The next one on the list, which I think is interesting, and I hope I say it right, is Guerlain, right? How do you say it? Right?
Guerlain. If you're going to be French, it's Guerlain.
Give it to me, fancy girl. Come on. Give it to me. Let me hear it.
Guerlain.
Okay. Or
like
Guerlain,
Guer,
if you're
like
me.
air. Right. So it's Guer, like G and then air, Guer, and then Long.
Well, they made a lot of money.
Like
Guerlain.
They
made $6 billion. And the only thing I think of, like, I know they have high-end beauty products, but you know what I think of with them? Are the meteorites. You know what I'm talking about?
That's their number one product. My mom lives by
my favorite product, actually. Yep. And I haven't used it in a long time. And
I love that you call them meteorites. They're the little multicolored balls, right?
Yep.
And so it's a face. Well, it's a blush.
A corrector. It's kind of a filter, actually.
Yeah.
So you know how you get the green to take out the red and the, there's different types of concealing colors. Green, I think they have purple, yellow, and a little pink and white. And they're these little shiny balls in like a loose powder container that you rub your brush over.
You swirl it. And so you kind of get all the colors.
And it's supposed to be a perfecting layer. It doesn't really take the place of anything. You might be able to take the place of powder. I didn't. I would always use it as like my finishing step, and it's supposed to help you look better in photos and in light, different light and all of that. I really liked it. I also think that it was really pretty, and I think I was like kind of, I fell victim to it because it's a really beautiful product.
My mom,
but I liked it.
When I was growing up, my mom loved Guerlain, and her friend, she had a friend from France who I believe had worked for one of the major French brands. And back when we were kids, conglomerates hadn't bought up all of the brands,
right?
Like it was still an individual French brand at the time. And so she would have all these products, and they were all from Guerlain. Her friend Catherine would always use these products.
Catherine, as I called her.
Yeah. Kathy. But my mom had that version, but in the pressed powder.
Oh yeah, the press was really pretty too.
So the pressed one, I remember being as a little kid, like sneaking around and like opening it up and like just looking at all the colors.
Because it was
like,
beautiful.
It was gorgeous, and it had it had a smell to it. Do you remember? It had
I know,
almost a perfumey kind of smell,
kind of a florally smell to it. Yeah,
and then she would swirl the brush around, and you're right. It was what an Instagram filter does for us now.
Yeah.
That's literally what it was supposed to do back then. And you would swirl all around, after your foundation, you would put it everywhere. It's still a bestseller. And especially, with the older crowd as well.
And seeing
the younger
them on
crowd,
this
we
list,
all just cheat. We just use Instagram filters. We cheat. But
you don't really know what we look like. I know. But I actually want to try it again. It made me seeing it on this list. I was like, I got to get back to that. All right, number 6 on the list, and we'll just give you the top 10 here, but number 6 on the list is Clinique. That brand, again, very much like Estee Lauder in my mind, a solid brand, a brand that just kind of is there, but I don't know if it's the most...
Which is interesting because I would have thought Clinique, is really still on the decline, but no, up 2 spots. Again, my mom, Fancy Nancy, has incredibly sensitive skin. She's literally allergic to like everything, and all of her products are Clinique. We were just in the mall a couple weeks ago, and we went to the Clinique counter, and I got her like it's a very mild acid toner, so it helps exfoliate, and because her skin is very thin and she gets broken capillaries very easily, which I do too. It's like the one thing I inherited from her. Everything else I got from my dad, but it's the one thing I got from her. So I was like, Mom, you can't use a scrub. You're making you can't do that. So we went and we got a toner. She's obsessed with it. The first time she used it, she called me. She's like, I already know I'm going to love this. This is great. So Clinique is still making stuff for their customer, and it's working because, they have a loyal base of women, mostly who can't handle fragrance, like my mom, can't handle anything that's like super harsh or anything that's, too astringent or too drying, so I'm surprised. I am surprised that Clinique is up 2 spots, but then again,
you never know what they're
consistent.
doing. behind the scenes. And again, maybe this report from this year shows us the profitability of being a solid and stable brand that people just know. For me, when I think of Clinique, I think of two things. Well, three. I think of that yellow moisturizer and the yellow soap.
The bar.
I feel
like every one of us started with Clinique.
Of course.
Right? So you start and end your life with Clinique.
Yeah. And then as a kid, my mom used a lot of Clinique products in her makeup bag. And I always remember that green plastic casing that they used to use. It was like a marbleized green and white. And she had this blush that was really beautiful. It was like a perfect, like corally color that was like peachy color. It was great. Mm-hmm. But for me, the product that I use from Clinique, and there's really only one that I can go to, is the Almost Lipstick Black Honey. That Black Honey is a cult favorite.
Oh.
People still use it today. If you have not tried it, I think you need to try it. Do yourself a favor in life. It looks
interesting.
Dark black, dark brown in the container, but it puts on the most beautiful wash of color. And it looks a little bit different on everybody. Some people look a little more red. Some people, it looks a little more berry. On me, it's like a very nice, deep berry stain. And I'm a huge fan. And every once in a while, I'll just get the hankering to like go and replenish my Black Honey supply. I don't always have it, but usually every couple of years, I'm always going out to look for it. It's still a great product. It's a classic. Love it.
Love it. Okay, cool. So next up on the list we're at number 7. This is a neutral. So there's no up or down movement. And that is Dove.
Which huge brand.
This makes sense to me, right?
Because
Dove they keep coming out with more and more body washes. That's really what I use them for.
Yeah.
Dove deodorant is huge.
Body wash, lotion, shampoo. I mean, Dove has really become the product. Bar soap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a standard. I would imagine that every one of you listening to this podcast right now, if you go home,
you've got something from Dove. Yeah.
Yeah. In your bathroom. And think about this though. They made $5 billion, over $5 billion. And their products are probably some of the cheapest on this list, aside from Gillette.
Yeah,
Dove is inexpensive all the way through. But I say it's a good quality. I mean, I use their body wash and their body bars more than anything else. I've even tried their deodorant. It works.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they do have, I think that, like when we talk about what our grandmothers used, a lot of women use a Dove bar soap.
I used to laugh because my grandmother, and I talk about her a lot because she had the most beautiful skin. I mean, she was incredible with her skin. And it was always Noxzema and Oil of Olay and Sea Breeze Toner. Those were like her 3 beauty products her entire life.
Do you remember Sea Breeze Toner? I think I can still have PTSD if I smell the bottle of it. Yeah.
And she would use like CoverGirl base. She was not a fancy girl at all, but in her shower, she'd have 2 bars of soap. One of them was Irish Spring, and one of them was Dove.
Oh man, that rips the moisture right out of your skin.
My grandfather was an Irish Spring guy, and she was the Dove.
My grandfather was too.
It made me laugh because they were so simple, yet each of
zero
them, like,
moisture
that was,
happening there.
Yeah, but that was their big luxury in life, is that they each got their own bar of soap, their own brand, and that was cute. Like their treat for themselves.
That's very cute.
All right, so Dove is on the list, and then followed by Dove at number 8 of these top earning brands of the year of 2022. Pantene is on the list. This did not surprise me either, because if you walk into Target, Ulta, Rite Aid, wherever you go, they run the hair care aisle. I mean, it's just everywhere, whether it's a hair care product or shampoo. Yep. And I admit, I use Pantene, and sometimes I roll through that as part of my routine. And for a low cost shampoo, it's pretty darn good.
For years, I have heard stylists, personal assistants to Hollywood celebrities, anybody who anonymously would be willing to talk about, like what's in Jennifer Aniston. I remember there was one specifically about Jennifer Aniston. What's like one product that you would be really surprised is in a lot of Hollywood homes? Pantene shampoo was the number one answer. Jennifer Aniston for those gorgeous glossy locks that everybody wants that color. Everybody has Pantene. It just seems to be that's ubiquitous.
It's a go-to.
It's not surprising.
And I don't know if you remember, but before we started spending stupid money on stupid things, like, lots of $50 on shampoo and all that stuff, then now we just go, oh, that's just what we're going to get.
Which it just is on your head for less than 30 seconds and runs right down the drain. I know.
Totally.
It's crazy.
But when I was growing up, Pantene was actually the high-end product. Do you remember that?
I remember when Pantene first became a big deal. I don't remember. It was probably around for a lot longer than we even knew. But I remember
the small bottles.
The marketing of it. Remember when the marketing sort of exploded and it was like everywhere. You had to have Pantene. And they must have put $100 million into the TV ads. Totally. I mean, it was like a whole thing. Yeah.
And they had the small bottles that were like pink, and you matched the pink with the pink and the blue with the blue, and each one was a certain kind. And at that point, they were probably, I'm going to say $4 or $5 as opposed to like the $2 or $3. Now it would probably be equivalent to spending maybe $10 a bottle at the drugstore instead of $5 on the shampoo that you would like. And I remember it being more high end when it first launched, and now it's like everything else kind of caught up with it and surpassed it. So that's number 8. They're down a couple of notches. Number 9 on the list, Lancome, as we mentioned. This one doesn't surprise me either. This is a brand that I feel like, even though it's one of those classic brands that we feel like our moms would have used, it also tries to stay relevant with mascara.
It's still at Sephora and Ulta.
Totally. So it stays relevant. For sure.
Well, the mascara, I mean, we did a whole mascara episode. I still have yet to find a mascara that's better than their Big Monsieur. I mean,
it's a really good mascara brand.
Phenomenal. When I went to Sephora last week, I was out of the Big Monsieur, so I had to go, Big Mister, we'll call it. Because you know, like all the French.
Yeah.
So, so I was out of Mr. Big, and I had to buy some more, and they were sold out. And so it's still selling out, and it's been on the market for years now, and it's still selling out. So I had to take and then the girl at Sephora was very nice, and she was like, "Well, do you want to try something else?" I'm like, "Girl, I'm going to save you. I've tried everything in this store.
I know.
This is why I keep going back." So I ended up getting, which is not as good, but it's okay. I went back to the Lancome Hypnose Drama.
Yeah, I like that too.
It's fine. It requires, it doesn't have the same volume as Mr. Big does, but it's fine. And if you can stick around for 7 or 8 coats, which is what I did, and you eventually you'll get there.
It's still a good product.
It's a good product. It's a good product. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So Lancome, number 9. And then number 10, finally, on this list of the top earning brands, Garnier, which I think is interesting. They made $4 billion. It surprises me too, because I think of them all for hair products. And I'm surprised that they are so competitive with Pantene, but they are out there. I mean, it's anywhere you buy shampoo.
Yeah. Do you remember when we did our nostalgic episode, which was hilarious with Salon Selectives? You brought me so far back. Oh my God.
Oh, that smell. I'm smelling it right now.
Right? I can still smell it. But Garnier Fructis, I feel like I remember when that, we're talking about marketing and when it first makes an impact on you. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember Garnier Fructis.
The bright green bottle.
Like, the fruit and how good it is for your hair and like all this other stuff. There's just marketing buzzwords. But that Garnier Fructis shampoo and conditioner was in my shower at least all through probably junior high and maybe all through
the teenage years
even.
For sure.
The teenage years. Yeah.
And it smelled good.
It smelled great. And then I remember when Sarah Jessica Parker became the face of the brand for all the hair color. Remember when she was dyeing her hair or whatever.
Garnier.
That's what they were hiring her for. And it was supposed to be like a healthy way to color your hair and like all this other stuff. None of it is true.
No.
But, that was their claim to fame. But I'm surprised that they are still in that they're at number 10. I would not have. I wouldn't, if you and I went through and I had to guess, I would guess a lot of other brands before Garnier.
Me too. Even Clairol, like you brought up hair color because Garnier does hair color as well as a shampoo, but Clairol seems to be kind of like the go-to in the hair color aisle.
Right.
But they don't have the component of having the shampoo. So maybe that's what maybe the double offering pushes them ahead. And the one thing,
the big breakthrough that Garnier has had in the last, let's say 10 years, might not be quite fully 10 years, but it's the micellar water.
Yeah. My gosh. That's right.
Big, which honestly,
so they're growing. Yeah.
That made me break out. I never break out.
I'm not a fan.
Ever.
It gets in my eyes, but people like it.
I hated it. I ended up buying a higher end, Biologique is the name of it. It's a French pharmacy brand that is way better, way, way, way better. If you like a micellar water to get rid of the makeup and you want to be a little lazy like me, skip the Garnier because I found it my friend ended up with an eye infection after using it.
Oh my goodness.
And like half her face was so inflamed. She had such an allergic reaction to it. It is really harsh. And I even bought the version that is supposed to be fragrance free or whatever.
Yeah.
It stripped my skin. I hated it. I know a lot of people love it, and it's fine. It's great. If it works for you, that's great. But not a fan.
Yeah.
But I think that's been their big breakthrough product in the last 10 years. I think that might be why they're on this list.
I think that you're right. I had totally forgotten about that. I forgot they went into skincare. They do the wipes. They do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the wipes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are your top 10 earning brands in 2022. I thought it was kind of fun. Some surprising for me.
Absolutely. So let's transition real quick. There is a new article that came out on Refinery 29, which I always love. It's one of my favorite blogs to read. And it is entitled, "Should I Stop Getting Gel Manicures? Experts Unpack the Radiation Risks." So I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. Now, I blame my nail obsession on you.
That's me.
But I have LCNs, right? The light concept nails is what LCN is. And then I get them filled in every 3 weeks, which is good because they don't grow that fast. So I can last for 3 weeks, especially with a lighter color. You can't really tell.
Yeah. Then they look beautiful.
Oh my God. I've really gotten a lot of compliments. And then I do a gel polish, hard gel polish, or the soft gel polish, whatever, with the UV light. So I do that every 3 weeks. And years ago, when I was working for Cosmo magazine, I interviewed a dermatologist, and we were talking about, that was sort of the beginning of the craze of like everyone needed a gel manicure.
Yeah.
And I said at the time, because, I grew up at the beach and didn't use enough SPF at the time. I'm probably about a few years away from having stuff lasered off me. Once you hit 40, it's like, stuff gets lasered. So tanning beds. I'm from Jersey, right? We all went to a tanning bed. It's terrible.
Oh,
we did.
They're so relaxing,
so these are mini tanning beds for your fingers.
For your hands.
So my first question to the dermatologist, when we were talking about different products and things to watch out for, I'm like, I really like getting gel manicures because I always smudge. I never wait to dry long enough, and I always smudge. So she was like, well, she said, I know everyone loves a gel manicure, the convenience. She goes, but you're in a mini tanning bed. So your hands, any part of the light that your hands are hit, that hits any part of your hands, you're going to be affected. So this new study is actually the first large scale study of the damage that these UV nail lamps can actually do to your DNA.
Oh boy.
There are 2 cases that they haven't been able to confirm the link, but 2 women have had melanoma pop up on their hands. Now, melanoma can pop up anywhere on your body.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily where you get the most sun is where melanoma shows up. In most cases, melanoma, as we learned from Dr. Del Rosso, melanoma shows up in places that never sees the sun.
Right.
Typically. Right. So they're not really sure if there's a direct correlation between these women using the UV lamps and having melanoma on their hands. However, what we can confirm, which is just like a tanning bed, your hands are going to age. Yeah. Right, you're going to get sun damage. Yeah. You're going to get sun damage. That just will happen.
Can I ask a question though? Why in hand lotions do they not put more SPF in hand cream?
That's a great question. And
I mean, I was going nuts the other day because I was looking at my hands and I'm like, gosh, my hands are just starting to look old. And I think that's one of the places where you can really tell. And when I put my SPF on my face in the morning, I put it on the back of my hands, but I wash my hands a million times. So I was thinking to myself, why are there not more hand creams with SPF? And I actually had filed this. Funny we're talking about it. Like 3 days ago in my brain, I'm like, I need to go on Amazon or a Sephora and see if there's any hand creams that have SPF because I'd like to start using that product.
Did you find anything?
No, I haven't even looked yet. Like literally, I filed this in the back of my head thinking I've got it. Next time I go on one of those sites.
Because I'm like you, I wash my hands a million times a day and I put lotion on.
You're washing it off. Yeah.
But if you are consistently reapplying lotion that has SPF, then that's the way to go.
Aside from my face that sees sun, it's my hands. You drive in a car, all of that stuff.
Everything that goes on my face goes on my hands as well, on the back of my hands. That's just a routine I've done since college. Yeah. So, but you're right. There needs to be more body lotion that has SPF 30 or higher. So
because we don't wash our face 12 times a day. It's our hands that we're washing all the time.
Right. So the dermatologist that I was talking to about this, she said that she also likes to get gel manicures. And she said, I put on SPF like I'm going to the beach on my hands. And she said, and then I go and get then I go and get my nails done. And so in this article, there are multiple doctors who are contributing and saying what they do. One doctor, which to me, I'm like, that's a hard pass. One doctor says that she wears fingerless gloves to get a manicure.
Like Michael Jackson.
Can you see that picture?
Oh yeah, no. We're not doing that.
It's like a white, they're like silky white kind of material.
Yeah.
And like, what? No. No sale. $10.99, no sale.
No,
sorry.
We're not doing
that. So, but here's the other, so two things that I think and now that I get these, because I've noticed two now, I'm like, oh, maybe I am getting a little sun damage.
I get freckled and sun damage. Yeah, that's what you see.
So, and I do my nails every 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks now, this is more than ever in my life. Every 3 weeks, I'm in the lamp. Yeah. The good thing is, if you go to a good salon, and there is a difference. I am now at a much higher end nail salon as opposed to like when I was, living in Manhattan, where you go in, it's like a factory, right. And it's just, I find that those places make you, and there's often a language barrier, but I have found in my own experience, they keep telling me multiple times, more and more, right?
Yeah.
So you've got probably a total of maybe 5 to 10 minutes total,
for
right?
Sure.
In and out. Now, the salon that I go to right now, the new higher end salon, it is literally one round of the 30 seconds. You're out.
That's it.
And that's it. So I don't really know if the lamps aren't as good in the cheaper places or what the deal is, but this is something that we can control as customers. Make sure that you're saying, if I need to cure for 30 seconds, I don't think anything really is ever a minute, right?
No. I mean, I've had them, I would say no more than a minute, but they constantly have you go back there.
And I think
they're finishing your other hand.
Like they're just, right? It's just like, they just keep hitting the light button. I'm like, I don't need that. Like, that's just too much.
But I do think it's a good idea to SPF too. And just,
well, that's going to be my new thing. I'm getting my nails done next week. And because I'm up for, right before Valentine's, I'm going to get them done again. I'll be at my 3 week level or my 3 week, rate. And I haven't even thought about that until I saw this article today. I'm going to go, because especially in the winter, I don't think about SPF. I really don't. And I know I should. And every dermatologist says no matter what time of day, even if you don't leave your home office, you're still getting refracted light coming in.
Of course.
From the windows. If you're driving in your car, like you're still getting damage. But I'm definitely going to, I'm going to try that now and just use like, whatever I would use at the beach. SPF
little
50 is usually what and we'll see what happens. The one thing is like I've in this article with Refinery 29, they also mentioned that a lot of manicurists don't like if you have lotion or SPF on the nail bed because that can alter how the
and
gel
I imagine you're still
sticks.
taking light in through your nail beds too, which is why it's important to check.
I
to
also
make sure.
feel like, and this is probably a false sense of security, but I kind of feel like I have a little extra layer of
with the nail
protection because I've got the LCNs.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's the hard gel that never comes off. They just file off the polish.
Yeah.
Put the new polish on, you go in. So it's not
and you're
damaging,
not destroying your nails. Yeah.
Right. And it's not destroying my nail beds, which is the whole reason why I said to you, my nail beds like need some serious triage. And you were like, you got to get the hard gel.
Yeah. Always the hard gel. Yeah.
You started me down this rabbit hole, Alice.
What can I do?
Here I am.
You asked for the advice.
Oh my, I'm so obsessed though. Like my nails are just, I love. But now I'm definitely going to, and if you find a lotion, I'm
going to start doing some research. Yep. I think it seems like that's a no-brainer.
Like, why doesn't a Nivea or a Jergens or, like lotion
they
companies
have money to make on this list. They might as well expand their brand. Come on.
And at the very least for hand lotion, because all women know that your hands show your age faster than anything else, right? Your hands and your décolletage. So you always have to pay attention because once that goes, that's it.
And you can't get it back. No way.
So like those are the two that you really, really need to focus on. But yeah, I'm actually happy that I saw this article today because it's reminding me selfishly that I need to be better about this because I'm in a mini tanning bed every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks for at least 10 minutes. All right. So I have to tell you about a TV show that I heard about. Yeah. I know you've got a few suggestions for me. A friend of mine was telling me, he knows my terrible taste in television. He goes, have you heard of Welcome to Chippendales?
Oh my God, that's one of my recommendations.
Was that the one you're going to tell me?
We just finished it last night.
So he tells me that I need to see this show, that I would absolutely love it.
Good.
And that it's kind of like SoCal based. So I would probably like that during the 70s,
it's in
right?
West Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's like Arnold and Sepulveda. Does that make sense? That's the location of the club.
So tell me, because he told me that was his recommendation that I need to watch Welcome to Chippendales. And he said it's so fabulous. Good. And for you guys wondering, like a little on the prude side, I hear you don't see a lot of like craziness, right?
No. It's not about,
it's more the story.
About the guys.
It's the story, right?
It's the story of the guy, Steve Banerjee, I think his name, something like that.
He's an Indian guy, right?
Yeah, he's an Indian immigrant. And so brilliantly played by Kamal, I'm forgetting his last name. He's like one of the Avengers. He's been in big movies. And this is the first thing I've ever seen him in. And I just said to Lewis last night, we finished the final episode, I said, this guy's got to win an Emmy and a Golden Globe and everything for it. He's amazing in it. The whole cast is great, but he really stands out. And it's the story of is just this dorky guy who starts a backgammon club. And
he owned a gas station or something, right?
He owned his family. Yes, he worked for a guy who owned a bunch of gas stations. He sort of worked his way up. Didn't want to do that. Really wanted to, he wanted a Rolex, and he wanted to live the life. Like he really money. Wanted all the money, the whole thing. And so, it's a really interesting guy. So he starts this backgammon club, and naturally, no one went. No. And he rents this big disco. It's like a nightclub with all these backgammon tables, and no one went. And so he meets a few other people along the way who are kind of like, you should maybe do, a nightclub, or maybe and they tried disco dancing and that didn't work. And like just all sorts of things. This is in like I want to say like the late 70s, and it spans through the 90s. And it seems like you're like, wait, why would I care about the dorky guy who started Chippendales? But it is such a fascinating story, and I'm not spoiling anything. There are twists and turns in this story that like you don't see coming. There are high crimes and misdemeanors that are involved that you would not see coming. It really is amazing. And all I think of is probably what you think of now when we think of Chippendales is Vinny from Jersey Shore.
Totally.
In Vegas. It's still I've never been to the show, but apparently it is still one of the most popular shows around in Vegas and around the world. So yeah, it's called Welcome to Chippendales. It's on Hulu. And I think it was only like 7 episodes, and it's all true. It's a true story. It's true story. It's also true crime. So there's interesting stuff in there. It's so good.
All right, so, I'm going to watch that one because he told me about it. You're telling me about it. I'm in.
And Lewis didn't care at first because like Lewis was like, whatever.
Chippendales, right?
There's some look. I know I have a lot of gay friends. I heard about it from my gay friends. They're like, oh, you got to watch Welcome to Chippendales. I'm like, all right, well, hot shirtless guys with abs. Okay. Like it's not a struggle. And then Lewis was kind of like, oh, great. But then when he started watching and he saw what the real story is,
right.
You really get like, it's fascinating. So so we're both sharing that recommendation, which I love. And my other recommendation, you may laugh at this one.
I might.
It's the new Pamela Anderson documentary.
Oh, I don't laugh at that.
It's called,
I think that's interesting. What's it called?
It's fascinating. It's called Pamela with Love, or Love Pamela, something like that. It just debuted within a week. I mean, we were on it from the beginning. It's on Netflix. I had sort of like, Nivea. I was brand neutral on Pamela Anderson. I really, we all grew up with Baywatch, like Playboy, whatever, like she was in, I just didn't really have any feelings either way. I met her once when I worked at Sirius. She was super nice. She had just stolen Kid Rock from Sheryl Crow. Right. This is a true story. She and Sheryl ended up in opposite studios. Sirius has a bunch of glass studios. And so I was the little talent water girl. And so I went in to deal with Sheryl, and she was super sweet and cool. Then I went in, and Pamela was doing like a stunt radio channel for Sirius at the time, which was not good. But you know what? Props to her. She tried. She couldn't host a show. Anyway, she was really nice. And so she asked me where the bathroom was, because normally she would do her show from her home in LA. This time she was in New York. So I said, okay, I'll walk you. And she goes, so real quick, she goes, I heard Cheryl's here today. And she was like, is it possible that we take a route to the bathroom where like we don't run into each other.
Avoid
and
that
I was like,
route.
And it took me a second to like think about, I was like, oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right. You just married Kid Rock and he was dating Sheryl Crow and he dumped Sheryl for you. That's right. That's right. I had to like, you know, like, and then she was kind of like a little embarrassed, but like she was so sweet. So anyway, I said to Lewis the other night, I'm like, you know, I'm like, let's just watch this documentary. I didn't know if he cared or not, but then I'm like, well, it's Pamela Anderson. Of course he's going to watch. So it's fascinating. There's a lot more to her than I ever gave her credit. Mm-hmm. Her story is, she is literally in not a stitch of makeup. Her two sons, she's so
pretty.
Yeah. Her two sons are the executive producers. There's a separate director and producer of it.
So you know how I know her son, Brandon.
Is he the oldest? Yeah, Brandon's the oldest. He's on camera a lot. He seems very smart and sweet.
He was so cool. If you ever watched the Hills reboot, which was just on MTV like 2 years ago, they brought him in as part of the I think he was friends with Brody Jenner or something like that. But he like seemed the coolest, as much as that show was probably very scripted, even though it's supposed to be a reality show, as much as he had a ton of money. And he wants to be an actor and he tells you all of that. You still really believe him. You still really like him.
Yeah.
And he
very
just seemed
likable.
cool. And they showed him with his dad and he still was saying nice things about his mom. It was, I had a good feeling about him from like start to finish and I know it sounds stupid because it's the Hills, but I
had the same feeling.
He was very likable. Mm-hmm.
I had the same feeling watching him in this documentary. She's at this time in her life, when they were filming the documentary, the Pam and Tommy miniseries had just debuted on Hulu, which I don't know if you saw that. I watched all of it.
I didn't.
So she talks about, you know, she never watched the sex tape that was stolen from their home. No one disagrees on that, right? That's not just, you know, that's not up for dispute. It was stolen. They didn't put it out themselves. It ruined her career. She talks all about that. It didn't really affect Tommy naturally because he was the dude and everyone just talks about, you know, sorry, honey, my husband's going to edit this. But, you know, all anyone really took away was he had a huge schlong and he honked the boat horn with it. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's basically the takeaway that everybody, that's what people took away. And it completely ruined her career. And so she said that she never watched that sex tape and she was really upset that they made Pam and Tommy, the miniseries.
Really?
The truth is, though, I would recommend the Pam and Tommy miniseries is excellent. Lily James as Pam is phenomenal.
She became her. Yeah.
She was phenomenal. Great. And at the end of that miniseries, I was almost in tears because you see how it affected Pam, the character, how it affected her career, how it affected their marriage. I mean, I thought they did a very delicate job of telling really the truth of like how it affected these people as humans.
Right.
And it's interesting because Pam says she's very against it. And in the documentary, she talks about like she refuses to watch it. But I'm thinking like as I'm watching it and we finished her documentary, I think if she actually saw Pam and Tommy,
she might like it. Yeah.
She might actually think that they did her right. And they did. It's interesting. One of the interesting parts is towards the end, I didn't realize this. This was in 2022. She was Roxy Hart on Broadway.
I heard that actually.
And
because they toured through LA.
Oh, did she go to LA too? Because she did 2 months on Broadway.
Yeah.
And so they show her in rehearsals and she's never done anything like it before, but she's fearless. She actually was funny. They showed a lot of clips of her on the stage. It's a lot of star people, a lot of like, you know, Hollywood stars.
I saw Christy Brinkley do that role.
I heard she was terrible.
It was really bad.
Yeah, I heard Christy was not good.
Bad.
I heard Erica Jane was actually pretty good from Housewives of Beverly Hills. I heard she was good. And then I think it shut down because of COVID. And I think the next big star was Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, she was the next one that came through.
And I think the reviews weren't terrible. The reviews, I think, were okay for her.
I didn't hear anything bad about her, but boy, Christy Brinkley, she stunk up the place. I saw half of the Pantages theater was full, maybe. Yeah. I mean, it really got out that she wasn't very good. And it's too bad because I like her, but good for Pamela Anderson for trying. That's something brave, especially if you feel like you've already lost a lot, to put yourself out in live theater is tough.
Oh, tough. My God. It was 8 shows a week for 2 months, no break. I mean, she committed, she did it. She looked like, actually in dance rehearsals and stuff, like she looked good. And they said that her comedy on the stage was actually really, really funny. She landed a lot of laughs that, like a lesser act. Not that anyone has ever said Pamela Anderson's a great actress, but I think that she got a lot of credit. Yeah. And from the reviews that they talk about, even in the documentary, it was like, look, she's not going to star in Carnegie, singing at Carnegie Hall anytime soon, but this is a solid performance and it's really entertaining. So
right.
It's a really interesting documentary. It's not that long. It's only like, it's not episodes or anything. It was like an hour and 20 minutes or whatever. And I just came away. It shows her why she was connected to Julian Assange, which I never knew.
Oh, that's interesting.
They weren't dating. I remember everyone thought like they were.
Yeah, there was something there.
That was not the case. That was really based on her activism. She's been a big activist for PETA, for a long time. And so there was a lot of activism that really spawned that connection to Julian Assange that was really interesting. And it was all through Vivienne Westwood, who just passed away, the British fashion designer who was always an activist. That's how her fashion began. And so there's a lot more to it than I ever would have thought. And I'm not going to give anything away, but I was really tearing up at the end. There's a sadness. There's a real sadness to it of love lost. And, everyone makes jokes like she's been married like 7 times or whatever. But
she's looking for love.
But there's literally a current husband in it. And by the end of the documentary, they're divorced.
Yeah, they're done. Yeah, she just got divorced again.
Yeah. And then there was the guy that she was married to for like a week. And then now he said he's going to leave her money in his will or something. There was another thing with that. But there's a lot about her childhood that's, rough. Yeah. Really rough. Wow. So I would highly recommend that. But I do think it's interesting to see the Pam and Tommy miniseries first and then go and watch Pamela fill in some holes and blanks. You know what I mean? I think it almost makes sense to watch it in that order. But it's great. And welcome to Chippendales. So good.
I got to watch it. I would love both of those. Those are both right up my alley. So good suggestions. Good.
Well, enjoy, everybody. Yeah. So that's our hangout time this week. As you know, you're just basically listening in on Jen and me catching up every week. That's like, we don't get to talk every day anymore. So Here we are. So thank you guys so much for listening. Follow us on Instagram at BeautyPopPod. You can send us an email at beautypoppod@gmail.com. Follow Jen at Jennifer Horn Radio. You can follow me on Air Victoria. And we will talk to you next week. We've got some more product reviews coming soon.
Yes.
You and I we both have some really good stuff that I can't wait to share.
I'm holding back, but we're ready soon.
I can't wait. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week.